de mi tierra bella, de mi tierra santa. Oigo ese grito de los tambores y los timbales.
Buenos días, buenos días. Aquí estamos en el show Siembra a través de TuneIn, a través de BT Radio Universal aquí en la ciudad de Tacoma, del estado de Washington, a través de One America, 100.6.5. Todos los que nos están escuchando esta hermosa mañana, sí, porque es hermosa. La gente se queja del aguacero que está lloviendo, pero imagínate, no fuéramos la ciudad. We won't be the green state if we don't have all this rain, right? So it's a beautiful morning. I like to call it beautiful because of the rain. Make it very special this morning. Pastor Dennis, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm looking at you squinting like you're looking. Can you see what you're looking at?
The volume I'm hearing on my side is pretty low.
Yeah, so it's pretty low. So you're kind of working on the volume. Oh, okay, so he's going to work on it. But this morning, I was saying, it's a beautiful morning. It's raining, and a lot of people don't like the rain, but the reason we are called Green State is because of the rain. So welcome to Washington State. Welcome to downtown Tacoma. We here in el show Siembra through VT Radio Universal. We also have connections with 1.6.5 One America Radio, that also the listeners are listening to us through 1.6.5 One America Voice. So good morning. Buenos días. Aquí todos hagan su cafecito. Get your coffee. Get, you have your bit of pastry that you're going to sit and listen to us for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And we're going to start with, I am the host. I'm the host of the show Siembra. My name is Yazmin Ford. And I also have my co-host, Pastor Dennis, that he is in the comfort of his home. I make things hard for myself. I come here at the studio actually to make company to Christian, because he's here alone helping out. So we have him here helping. And this morning we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but mainly a subject we want to talk a little bit about narrative. Storytelling, narrative, and messaging, because it has to do a lot with how we see the world, how we relate to other people. The message and the narrative that is put out there is a big thing. It's a big thing in the game when it comes to even politics and the decisions that they made on behalf of us. So I wanted to touch a little bit of basis on what's going on in the world right now. Outside and inside, we have the Glasgow meeting with all the main contributors. We have, I think Russia didn't participate, not Russia, not China, but finally we have China and United States and India coming to agreement that they are going to try to help with the global warming and all the climate change. So hopefully they keep their word. Well, here in the United States right now in politics, what's going on with the President Biden, he signed the infrastructure bill. So hopefully this week we get the other side of it, the bill that is the bit that is very important, because it has paid leave, it has child care. And we really want to advocate for those things that make people's life easier, especially people, the middle class, working people. There is no middle class anymore that in the 50s and in the 60s, like our parents. Today is the middle working class that really gonna get benefit by that other side of the bill. And now I wanted to introduce you, Pastor Dennis. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Can I say something before we go any further?
Yes.
We can't even see you. There are two big microphones that are completely covering your head.
And I don't have a big head.
Uh,
Okay, we got.
oh, there. That's better.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Okay, we got it.
We want to see how beautiful our host is.
Thank you. Thank you. They just hear my voice. Thank you. So yes, Pastor Dennis. So how was your morning?
It's doing okay. Doing okay. I'm just really sore. I was out in the garden all day yesterday, and so every joint in my body is aching. So
Well, that's that age where you've been down and then you come up and you're like, oh, wait a minute, something is wrong, right?
Yeah, I don't want to accept that, but yeah, I suppose
He said he doesn't want to
I have
accept
to live
that.
with it.
It's gonna come. You know, it's gonna come, and I think we're fortunate. And I just had a birthday last week, and I get a little bit melancholic when for my birthdays. But I sit and and I said I'm so grateful. I mean, I am so grateful when I think about what I have and what other people here in the United States don't have. When I think about the homeless people right now, there is so much people in the streets. When I think about food, when I think about healthcare, when I think about education, when I think of all those things, whether we complain about this country, me being an immigrant, not my homeland born, it's just a blessing. All the stuff that we have available, and sometimes we don't appreciate, and sometimes we are not grateful because it's just standard. This is common to us to live like the way we live. There's other places in the world that they don't have what we have. So I look at my life in that perspective. I don't look at it in the way that I would look at what I don't have. I look at what I have, and what I have is a lot compared to other people. I think, and as you look at life that way, it's a lot easier. You don't live complaining, and you don't live thinking or striving to get more stuff. What you have, you're so grateful. So yeah, I had a birthday in November. November is a very special month, especially for Panamanians, because this is the month that we celebrate the independence of Panama from Colombia. We also celebrate it from Spain. So the whole month of November we picked to celebrate the month of our country, of becoming sovereignty and becoming its own, and taking its own place in this that we call universe, So that is a very special for me too, even though I'm not there to celebrate. But yeah, the whole month of November we celebrate
well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. It was
your personal Independence Day.
Yeah, and it rains the same. I was telling a friend, I said in Panama rainy season is in November. And here too, it rains a lot too. But I like the rain. I love the rain. I like this weather. I mean, we have one of the best. We live in one of the best states in the United States because it's so green and clean that I would change it for anything.
I agree. I think we also live in one of the best states as far as culture and society. We have some of the less reactionary, and most outward thinking.
We're very progressive. We're progressive on this side of the world, like California and Washington State and Oregon. We're a little bit more progressive than as we go to the south or the north, right? So west, yes, we are more than ever more accepting to certain things that maybe in the south they cringe at. They look at it like, no, we don't like that. But going into what we're gonna talk a little bit. And we were talking in week And I have a lot of stuff going on. I didn't have a lot of time to go in depth to what I wanted to, but we was talking about narrative. We have a story. We have a narrative is how you tell the story, right? And then we have messaging. So we got the story, and then we have these different ways that how we want to convey that story. So explain to me a little bit about narrative and message.
Well, message is the conclusion you draw from it. Narrative is just laying out the details, the facts, providing background, that kind of stuff.
But narrative, everything can be based on the eyes of the behold, based on the person that is telling the narrative of telling the story. Because I can tell the story, and I was telling you that I can pick a story of the Bible and tell it in a way that you will come and tell it, and you would be like, it looks like two different complete stories, but they are the same. It's just depending on who tells the story.
Well, it's looking at it from a different eyes. You can go through the exact same situation as somebody else and come out with a completely different stories or a completely different narrative from that story, because you're cued into different cues of what happened and what didn't happen than somebody else is.
And right, when we tell a story, even if we bring all the elements of how we view the world ourselves.
Exactly.
So I tell a story as a woman, as a Afro-Latina woman. All those elements are going to be included in the way I tell the message or narrate that story, right?
Right, exactly.
And right now, and the reason we're talking about this is because narrative and messaging is something very important. It's been used through all history of mankind. It can create a culture. It can create actually a community just by telling a story. It can create that word. A lot of times, when me and you talk, we talk about tribalism. That how a narrative can just create that to make, just by me telling a story, I can get a group of people to decide that we come from this, we are part of this.
We've for 200 years have grown accustomed to the white male narrative. And we live in a world that doesn't reflect that. We live in a country that doesn't reflect that. And so for much of our history, we have had disenfranchised people that turn on their TVs, turn on their radios, go to speeches, whatever, and are used to being excluded, being alienated. And in some cases, those people, rather than feeling that alienation, found some way to tell themselves they were included. And so now we're in a period when 50% of the country or more probably, when you include women as well, it's much higher than 50% of the country that wants to be included. They want a narrative that reflects them, and it's a big shock, even for women and minorities who were excluded before. They have reinvented terminology to include them, and now they have to let go of that reinvention of that terminology to accept what was natural, should have been natural for them to hear. But whenever we reinvent stuff in our heads, we invent an alternate view of the world or an alternate reality. It requires us to not only because we reinvent the world, we don't adjust to change very easily, because now we have to rethink our narrative, rethink our stories, rethink our definitions, and that's more than most people want to do.
And I always used to tell my son, I still tell him today, I said, whosoever create, edit, or rewrite the story is always going to be ahead of the game. Because naturally, as I write a story, I'm going to put myself as the main character in the story with my qualifications. Even the way I look is I'm going to be the hero of that story. And clearly that is also telling a story to the rest of the world, saying, me as an Afro-Latina woman, I'm more powerful. I am capable of doing things that, because of the color of my skin and my gender, I'm much better doing it than other people. And then we start creating these narratives that are so divisive, because now I'm telling people, everybody, gender-wise, woman and black like me, Afro-Latina, are better than anybody else doing this stuff. Yeah. And then we have people gravitating that look like me and are gravitating to this narrative and saying, yes, this is what we are. We are the superior being. We are the thing that is the closest to God. And we are going to come and save the world. Just based on my gender, my culture, and the color of my skin.
I think every people at the core of their being wants to believe that, because it gives them a leg up. And everybody wants to feel like they've got a leg up. But, talking about this really made me realize why so many minorities and women are buying these horrible narratives about these changes that are happening, because, like I stated, they had to redefine those terms to feel like they fit in, and they have to rethink those terms under some of the new things that are happening. And it's a whole lot easier now to have some of these guys out there telling them how to define those terms instead of having to figure out how to do it themselves. It's a lazy man's way to address this change, and it's creating a culture war. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Let me put it another way.
No, I didn't understand it, but yeah.
Okay, I know that you have members in your family that have bought into the narrative of the Trump world.
Yes.
Okay. What I'm saying is, those members of your family, to feel included in the previous narrative, had to reinterpret those terminologies so they could feel somewhat included. And now that there's a call to change the narrative, those definitions they used previously don't work anymore, and it's off-putting. It's making them uncomfortable. So when Trump offers a narrative that includes them, then they buy his definitions. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it is based on religious beliefs. It's based not even on religious beliefs. It's based in a a logo or a logo that you attach to yourself, or not even that. I want to say a name branding. When I say I'm a Christian, it doesn't matter what you say or do. As you say you are Christian, we are already have some type of connection. And this is where, for my family that talks about Trump and they believe, is only based on that he calls himself a Christian. So
Right.
he calling himself a Christian, they already feel like he is one of us. When he
Right.
say he's a Christian and he doesn't want he doesn't want people to have abortion or stop abortion, then he feels he is one of us. When he's against the gay community, then they feel like, oh, he is one of us, based only on that part that he is saying, I'm a Christian man. And saying that has to do more than just saying it. When
Right.
you don't love your neighbor, when you don't treat people not based on the color of the skin or gender. And I don't have to understand why you gay, but I just have to know that you are created by God, and I'm gonna love you in spite that I don't get it. To make laws and put laws in places that are based on my religious belief and impose that to other people. It's okay if I don't believe and I don't agree, but it's not okay to take these things that I don't believe and agree and make them a law and force other people to go the same way, believe. That is where I have a problem.
Right. I think what's happening is the Republican Party is sidestepping what the real change is, and they're trying to sell the idea that this change is not that, but it's really an assault on Christianity, when it has nothing to do with Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
What's being asked of our society has no bearing on religion in the slightest. There's no connection whatsoever.
And the funniest thing is that they would take one or two things that they quoted, say is in the Bible, to rally all of these people. And I don't know how these people don't ask. He's not good to women. He is not good to poor people. He doesn't welcome the foreign. How can you even believe that he is a Christian? These are basic things that Christianity should follow. And so where is these people come from? Is they even read the Bible? I don't know, because the base of Christianity is following this thing, saying welcome the widow, treat the orphan like it's yours, and also help all people that come from other country, welcome them. God said, he remind them, he said, remember, you was foreign, you was a slave in somebody else's land. Don't do it to other people.
Right. Have you ever heard of the hierarchy of needs?
No.
Okay. Psychologists have done tests or done studies and stuff, and have realized that there are some needs that are more core to our psyche than other needs are, and that's what the hierarchy of needs references. But a lot of Christians today are dealing with enough in society and enough in their own personal lives that they really don't go very deep in their Christianity. 90% of Christians in this country would be considered baby Christians. They're shallow. They really don't grasp the implications of what they read in the scripture. All they see is, how does it affect me personally? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
They don't see it out. They don't really look at our responsibility to other people. It's just, what is it going to do for me? And especially because that's how American Christianity has been formulated. Individualism in Christianity is a basic tenet of American Christianity, where it's not in any other part of the world. We here in America, Christianity, especially evangelical Christianity, is an anomaly worldwide. The rest of the world doesn't think at all like American evangelicals do, because we are very me-centered. We are very me-focused, and so when it comes to religion, when somebody tells me that my religion is being assaulted, they don't do any more thinking than that. They just jump on board with that narrative. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm thinking that religion, the world by itself, is a compilation of different parts of the Bibles that people just take. Every Bible has the same concept, it's just with different names. They have the same prophet that we call Jesus, and other religions call them other names. And they took it, almost looked like people had take bits and pieces and put it in one book and said, this is our book, our Bible, and they take the same concept. But you read the Quran, and you read the Muslim books, or you even read the Mormons books, there is about the same concept. But even with that same concept, you don't think they follow what really God wanted them to do, and it was to treat people fairly good. That's it. At the end of the day, whatever religion you call yourself to be, is God saying, you know what? If you don't see me and you say you love me, and you don't love the person that is sitting next to me, then your love is shallow. How can you love somebody that you can't see, and the person next to you don't love? And this is where I see narrative gets really. Now, today we have messaging and narrative and steroid with technology is so much stuff out there, and with conspiracy theory about the vaccine, about the virus, is like, and I don't see people taking the time to really, like you said, do the homework and do the research.
Yeah, I agree with you. The difference between how the different religions see Jesus is primarily the position, the supernatural position we put him in. Christians believe him to be God, and none of the other religions believe him to be God. Mm-hmm. But they do consider him to be a prophet. Mm-hmm. Do consider him to have really important things to say. All of religious books teach the concepts of how we should be and who we should be in a cultural context that is radically different than the one we live in today. And so they sound like they're talking about different things, and that they have different perspectives, but the different perspectives is heavily influenced by the culture in which they're relating those messages. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So, and I want to go back to what is messaging and narrative and stories. We can go back to the Bible days to do that, because actually this is the core I think how you narrate stories. I mean, we are going back in a way backwards. I can look at you right now and the Zoom thing, but before there was TV and any camera, we just used to sit and listen to radio and listen to stories through the radio. So telling stories and telling your story is the most effective way of connecting to other people and touching people's lives. So I think
Yes.
this has been used forever, and I don't think this is gonna go away. Technology just made it more abroad now for me to be able to talk, and people in Panama can listen to me live, China people can listen to me live. But telling stories is not something new. Messaging is not something new, and also using this, it could be a type of art to create a culture, even to create a division between people is this is where I want to go. It's kind of dangerous in when we talk about Hitler. He was in jail. He went to prison for a couple times, or one time, I think. And while he was there, he was listening to Mussolini. He was listening to Franco in Spain. He was gathering all those same tactics that these dictators, they started fascism in this part of the world in the 1940s and 1930s. He came out and he just started putting the word out there about the Jewish people in the community. And the Jewish people in the community, they were doing pretty good. They were striving, they was doing pretty good. And he convinced the poor working German people that this is your problem. These people are your problem. These people are the ones that taking the stuff that you supposed to have as a born German in this country. That those people are your problem. And that's how the narrative start, that you pin people against each other. And I'm looking today, living today in my 50s, seeing the same thing happening. It's no longer us, but it's more them against us. And we have these people that are creating that narrative. They're benefiting of keeping us like that. They are also getting, and they are profiting by keeping people divided. Narrative is the whole core of the game, and the Republican Party knows to do that very, very well.
Well, the Republican Party has very much bought into the concept of scapegoating, which is what happened with Hitler. In Hitler's day, Hitler wasn't trying to be unique or different. He saw scapegoating happening in Italy and France and in the U.S.
and in Spain.
And he actually thought he was trying to follow the U.S. lead in what he was doing, because he looked to the U.S. and our rules for we had some horrible sociological concepts that were being sold in this country, like sterilizing the poor. We did that. Did you know that?
No.
We sterilized the poor.
Wow.
And we did other things along that line, and because we bought into during just before Hitler rose to power, and during the time that Hitler was in power most of the time, we really believed the white supremacist narrative that there was a superior race, and that we could improve improve the quality of each human or each man by selective breeding. and so they were sterilizing those that they didn't believe would move culture forward. If their genes were passed along, it would hurt society. And they called this science when it had no basis in science. It wasn't until the fall of Nazi Germany and the shock of the concentration camps that Americans moved wholesale away from that whole mindset, because it was too embarrassing to hold such an opinion. But it never went away. It's been here ever since. We saw it in the Ku Klux Klan. We've seen it, even more recently with the rise of neo-Nazis again. But the hugest issue with Hitler and with any of these regimes is the scapegoating, and that is where we have separated from the Bible in the most profound way, because the Bible has always come to the defense of people that were innocent, that were being accused and being scapegoated, and defended their honor and reestablished their position in society. Almost all of the Old Testament stories talk about that. They're stories about how that happened.
And I always like to say that God is the God of the underdog.
He is. Absolutely.
He is the God of the underdog. Yes.
And that's part of this narrative that we're fighting right now, is because Trump has taken that part in the Bible, the God of the underdog, and he's painting Christians as the underdog.
And that is based on, but it's based on color and the color of your skin. That is the disturbing part of it. And we have people following that they thinking that it doesn't matter what this man said. The only reason we following him, for black people like me that believe in him, is because he's a Christian. And for white people, the only reason is because he's white. And that to me is, I don't even know how people don't use that critical thinking. Because you come and tell me to believe in him because he's a Christian. Okay, I'm going to look and say, okay, he said he is a Christian. Let's look and see what kind of Christian he is. Let's see is he's welcome the foreign people. Let's see is he respectful to women and gender. Let's see is he care about the poor people. Let's see is he does create and want to bring unity instead of division. Me as a Christian, and he said he's a Christian, I have to look at those things. Is he is doing those things? Is he's not doing those things? Then he can say anything. You're not doing what a Christian should be doing.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we have lived with coded language in this country for a long time, where it's like linguistic racism.
Oh my God, I like that.
Okay, because we have all kinds of terms that don't mean racism, but they include racism, and they're used in a very coded way. Mm-hmm. So you might not, and somehow they think that they're fooling people. They're not fooling most minorities, because most minorities recognize the coded message in the use of those terms. And that's what in large part is still in effect. The talk about institutional racism is exposing a lot of that stuff, but nonetheless, just as much as it's exposing, it's being recoded. And the same thing is still happening, but they've recoded religious language.
And I'm thinking, for people that wants to say that he is a Christian, and I'm going to talk to white people. This is directly to white people, that at the end of the day, and we talk about Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the obvious target to hit, but the truth is that he's just part of the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. He is just brought the problem to the surface so we can look more at it, but it's been there for a while. And the thing for white people, white poor people, white working middle class people, he is not there for you. He is not your friend, and you guys are not in the same category.
Right.
He is just using you as a pawn. And I think for one point, for one moment, white people, poor people think, you know what? We need to look at this country as a whole, as all of us need each other for a reason, instead of saying, I'm gonna hang with this guy even though I know he's not gonna give me a penny. I know he's not gonna do anything for healthcare, for jobs. I know he's not gonna do, but just the fact that I want to make sure that tribalism and that supremacy stay alive while you are suffering every day. Your job, you don't have the stuff that you need, but you saying, I'm gonna stick together just because I want my color, my people to stay supreme. And you almost don't see us growing and moving forward because of that. You think with a president, an all white president, you think that white little Joey would have changed that, right?
You know what? One of the reasons why we see a rise in talk about the Old Testament as opposed to the New Testament is because most of those stories in the Old Testament, the general culture, including the Jews, were still inundated with this nationalism. And the stories of the Old Testament assume nationalism at the base of those stories. Now, in all of those stories, God is attacking nationalism. However, because the one group that is benefiting, at least in the narrative, is the Jews, then from a nationalist perspective, we don't see that God's attacking nationalism as a whole, but that he is attacking other nations in favor of the Jews. Does that make sense? And so in a culture war like we're in, people gravitate to the Old Testament for proof texting and for knowing what's right and wrong, because that's what they were grappling with back then. They generally are not going to use the later prophets, because the later prophets confronted that.
And the Old Testament is based on legalism. The New Testament, is based on grace, and the grace doesn't punish you for anything. Grace is not impugned. Is and the legal part of the Bible goes into the Old Testament, where it was very legalistic. So
I don't know that grace doesn't punish anything. I don't know that that's
okay.
it's a little misleading. Grace acknowledges that sometimes our punishment of ourselves and circumstances can be a more effective punishment.
And when I say grace doesn't punish, it's because you enter into this place where even though you did something wrong, grace almost allow you to see that wrong that you did, instead of having somebody behind in your back telling you, if you do this, you're gonna be punished. You see what I'm saying?
Grace is not threatening.
Yes.
Grace
yes.
Grace is accommodating and supportive. Grace allows you to learn for yourself.
From your mistakes.
It allows you to learn and move forward. Legalism defines you permanently.
And this is,
you've done one mistake, you are a sinner for the rest of your life.
and thinking about that, because we are watching again, narrative is so important when it comes to people's life. I've been watching the trial of this kid, and you can see how white privilege is unfolding in front of our eyes when it comes to this kid. And I say he is a kid. He is 17, 18. I have a 23-year-old son, but we don't see our black sons or Latino sons portrayed like that as a kid. He is been looked as a kid and saying, you know what? He deserves. This was a mistake. We know that is what coming. He's too young to be thrown in jail for a mistake. And I see that as a mom, but I'm not sure is my son will be treated like that and see with that humanity of that we are created to make mistakes. And that's where grace comes, where you say, you know what, you killing 2 people and injuring 1 person is a big mistake. You are done with 2 people's life. They're gone. They're not here. But because he's young and he's white, that is a mistake. And God, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if he goes to jail, it's not going to be for much. If he goes, because he is being portrayed as a kid that made a mistake he doesn't deserve. He needs, we using that grace when we even portrayed in him and putting it in the stand. That is it. Yeah, he screwed up, but we're gonna give him a branch of olive so we don't screw up the rest of his life.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
But that doesn't happen with a black or Latino kid. No. You have never seen a black kid sitting in a stand crying like that, and we feeling sorry for him. They're not gonna allow us to see that from a black kid. Right. And again, narrative. He told this story. He said, I was afraid for my life. That's why I shoot. All of this is he's telling the story. Mm-hmm. And he's narrating this story that at the end is going to affect how this trial is going to end up for him.
Right. Yep. No, I agree with you. It's a travesty. I to be honest with you, I don't even want to turn it on. I know I would just be tied in knots with anger at how different this situation is than another.
And I was listening to a show the other day, and the lady, her daughter, they buy mixed, biracial kids. Mom is white, dad is black, and they have 2 kids. And the daughter was complaining to mom and saying, and mom said, we don't have a justice system in the United States. We have a legal system. There's no justice for a group of people here in this country. So we cannot call it a justice system. It is for some people, but for other people, it's a legal system that is really being, because she was saying, well, I have a white man, mom, why I can't do what you do? She said, because you are not white. You biracial, and as soon as you have a little touch of black, you are going to be judged very different than me. You're going to be judged with that legal system and not with that justice system. I was eye-opening for me.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's not necessarily true. Depending on her physical characteristics, there are a lot of light-skinned black people that have passed as white.
Get away with stuff. Yes.
So that's not necessarily true. But you bring up a misnomer in our society. Law has never meant justice. Okay, law and justice are 2 vastly different things that function on vastly different planes. As Christians, we are called to hone in on justice, not on the law. But for a lot of lazy people, they put the 2 together, and then you end up with law and order candidates that Christians support. Law and order has nothing to do with justice. It has to do with control. But laws should be created to achieve justice. But when they do achieve justice, they don't necessarily achieve justice for any great length of time. Laws lose their value when they cease to produce justice. And when they cease to produce justice, they need to be replaced with new laws that produce justice in the new context. But justice should be a standard we use to look at our laws and figure out which ones need to be replaced and which ones need to be kept, and in what context do we have to alter how that law is implemented to get the most justice from it. But laws don't produce justice.
And that was the point that the lady was telling her daughter, because she wanted justice, and she said, we don't live in this system is not created to provide justice. It's a legal system.
Yes, exactly.
That's what she told her daughter. It was an eye opening for me, because we keep saying the justice system and she said, no, it's a legal system.
Right.
Yes.
It's like the misnomer, the police are here to protect us. They're not.
No.
The police are here to enforce laws.
And the judges are
may or may not protect you.
And the judges are there to interpret that law too.
Right.
And we saw that today when I was listening to the trial of this kid. It is crazy just to watch the judge, the way he was acting too. They didn't even need he didn't even need a defendant lawyer, because the judge was doing all the defending for the kid. It was, it was almost like, whoa, right?
Right. A judge is by his name supposed to weigh the law and weigh the circumstances and find a way of bringing justice in the middle of it. But that's not how we have understood the role of a judge nowadays. Nowadays, they are bound by the law. So to be able to have justice is harder.
And
It's
I
very
see,
hard.
yeah, and I'm looking, and judges are appointed in the United States. They almost like have like a kinship. They're almost like kings. Like there's nothing to keep them, to have boundaries and to keep them. They don't have any regulations as judge. That's just crazy too. It's like you can't remove a judge because that's his court. And there's has to be, where is the regulations for judge? There's none, really. I was talking to someone and they was saying, well, they should remove this judge. He said that's his court. Nobody can remove. Who is going to? There's nobody to get and say you need to get out of there.
Yes, judges can be removed.
By who?
Usually by the bureaucrats around them.
Oh.
If an effective campaign can be used to make it happen. When the judicial system first started in our country, they were voted in by the people and stayed there for a limited time, a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it was that locality.
So they had a turn time. Now there's not that right now.
Right.
Interesting.
So.
Yes. Yeah, so.
Go ahead.
So I was talking. We wanted to talk about the narrative because there's a lot. There's a lot going on, especially with technology. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he just said, "What is going on with Joe Biden?" And I said, "What is going on?" She said, "He's a big mess. He doesn't look what the country is. Look at the economy is going bottom. Everything is so bad." And I said, what kind of news are you listening? And of course she didn't want to tell me. But I said, look, Joe Biden, to his defense, President Joe Biden, he's been president for 9-10 months. He came in when there was a pandemic that is a worldwide pandemic. And as we talk about the economy is bad here, but it's also bad in the rest of the world. I just came from Panama. The economy in Panama is not doing well because this pandemic affected all areas of the economy, and it is a worldwide pandemic. I said, so when you hear stuff like that, we gotta sit down and think. I sit down and think. I say, okay, wait a minute. Joe Biden is not president for 4 years. He's just jumping into this. He said, yeah, but he's been a politician forever, but not as a president. I said, also, a president can't do everything, and you don't want a president to do everything. We have these different branches where he needs support of these different branches in order to do something, and that is a good thing. We don't want one person doing everything because that is autocratic, and that it can even turn to a dictatorship. I told her. So I said, when you hear these narratives, whether in news, in the radio, or online, I listen to them, but then I kind of savor it in my mouth and say, okay, let me see. This man has just been president for this amount. Yes, the economy is wrong, but the economy is going to do this because of the pandemic. We need to stop not just repeating stuff that we hear and not at least critically think about it and make your own conclusions.
No, I agree with you. A lot of what, as far as our economy is amazingly resilient and is doing pretty well. What we're facing right now, though, is inflation due to one of probably three different things. Number one, the primary driver is that we don't have enough workers in the right places in the workforce to be able to keep everything moving forward. Okay. Plus, we had the Suez Canal, where all those ships were stopped for a long time, which then, of course, is well put us behind the eight ball as far as having access to things we're used to having. Okay. But the primary issue of people being able to, enough people to drive semis, enough people to run factories, all of that kind of stuff. That is a convoluted thing that is happening. I mean, number one, we've got people who died who can no longer fulfill their job in society. So we've lost them permanently from the picture. Number two, we've got people who were jobs they hated. They lost those jobs.
They quit those jobs. They quit their jobs. We have so much people quitting their job, and I think they're seeing it as an opportunity for them to be a driver now and the front for to demand what they want: health care, better paid. You know, so I think this also helped people that probably wasn't happy, probably had wanted to do something on their own, to say, you know what, this is the time for me to change, maybe try my own business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the numbers of people who actually quit are probably smaller than we might think.
Yes.
Because by quitting the job, they didn't have access to the money from employment security.
Unemployment, yeah.
That the federal government provided. Mm-hmm. So I don't think as many people were stupid enough to quit as we may think there are.
Well,
and certainly there were many that did that, but they learned very quickly that they were now out on their own, and that probably is what drove them to find other ways to survive. But nonetheless, those people who lost their jobs or quit, whatever, they figured out ways to survive and move forward without those jobs, where they're happier. So they're not going back.
And I think it is a good thing. I think it's a good thing if people are reinventing themselves. People are saying, this is maybe opportunity for me to really do what I want to do, and also create where more workers have a place on the table, and the other side of the table, the people that own the businesses and stuff now has to sit down and negotiate with these people, or they're gone and the new people can have more of a saying to bargain about wages and healthcare, all these different things. I mean, we got Walmart, that people that work on Walmart and still have to be under receiving food stamps or getting a Medicare because Walmart doesn't pay enough money, or they don't work enough hours to receive a healthcare. You know, so those are things now that I think are good, driving that more working middle class, poor middle class working people have more to decide and said, hey, I'm not going to work here if you don't pay me more. I'm not going to work here if you don't provide and help me cover my child care.
Right.
I'm not gonna work if you don't give me a health care, and I have to do, so there is that good thing about the pandemic, that it's creating more people to sit down on the table and say, are we gonna bargain here?
Right. It's mandated a restructuring of how we do stuff and a reassessment of how society was moving. And we were moving at breakneck speed before. There were people who didn't have a life because they were just trying to keep up. They were on a treadmill and didn't realize the treadmill they were on until a pandemic stopped it all of a sudden. And they realized that's not the kind of life they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been a blessing and a curse at the same time. But whenever you have that kind of a shift, it creates problems, because those positions those people were in previously, they're no longer available for. And now those industries have to figure out how to reinvent themselves to be able to get back to their normal.
And there's gonna be a new normal, most likely.
There will be.
It would be a new normal. Now we got the timekeeper. Christian is telling me I got about 5 minutes. So
Wow.
Yes, time went really quick. 8 minutes. He said,
Okay.
a little bit, 3 minutes more. So we've been talking about. So we mentioned narrative, we mentioned messaging, and then the story, because those three elements. We got the story by itself, the way I tell my story, and how I want to message and tell that story to, let's say, a particular group of women, that I probably want them to know, hey, I came from another country, I live here for a long time, and I have not have to, I have for sure, I know that God has blessed me more than I ever thought, from where I came to where I'm at now. How would you tell people when they listen to, there's so much to listen and to assimilate. Sometimes you have to even just turn off your phone or your TV, because there's so much. But at the end, we have to use that critical thinking that God give us, and measure things and think and say, okay, maybe this makes sense, maybe this doesn't make sense, maybe this could be true, maybe it's not. How do we sit down or just take stuff and just repeat it? Because the thing that bothers me is when people tell me stuff and they just repeat it, and then when I listen to it, I said, but this doesn't make sense. Why would you even repeat something like this that doesn't make sense?
Well, for one thing, there's too much going on for anyone to fully understand anything. So if you're listening to somebody who's figured it all out, they're lying to you. So you have to be, when you're hearing an explanation, you have to be a little suspicious, no matter who it is telling you, because if they figured it all out, they're lying. They're shading something, with not much integrity, to be able to make that claim. Okay. Number two, as much as we were, some of us were really concerned about Trump being a president, he achieved some really good things that could be really helpful for us moving forward. Okay. One of them is he exposed the hidden agenda of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And he put it right out there in full display. Now, you can embrace that reality and make it okay for those agendas to exist, or you can be angered at it and join those of us who are calling for that to change. Okay. Also, with the pandemic, we removed people from a treadmill of society, of life, that that old treadmill was going to kill us, because at some point, people are going to die from all kinds of heart conditions because they're not living.
Stress.
And so it forced us to rethink how we live in our society. That can be good.
Yes.
If we jump on board with that and make those changes that are necessary. But if we go back to the treadmill, then, all bets are off. But other things, you cannot be driven by an opinion about any group of people. When you are accepting a scapegoat, you have to step back and realize that you're wrong. There, in any real assessment of what's going on, there is not clear people that are evil and clear people that are good. Okay? Any assessment that makes any group totally evil, somebody's lying. And any assessment that makes any group totally good is another lie. So those are two of the best ways to know when you're being lied to. If somebody's being made a scapegoat, get as far away from that explanation as you can, because that's a lie. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I know we have a few minutes, but I wanted to add to what you were saying to bring us to a point to look at the climate change. It forcing us also as is collectively to do something about the climate change. That is something that I don't think people was thinking about it, and that is this serious, but it is serious. So I wanted to close the show by just saying hi to everyone that is watching and listening. I have Cristina Cianca. I have Carla watching the show, listening to the show. We have VT Radio. So we have these ladies that got up early and watching us here. So good morning, everyone that's watching us. Listen through TuneIn, VT Radio Universal, through One American Voice, 106.5. Thank you for all you guys listening. Next week here in Siembra, here in Tacoma, Washington. We're gonna see you next week. It's God willing. And thank you for sitting up, having your coffee, your bagel, whatever, and listening to the show about narrative and how we navigate this world now, where we're listening to and getting so much stuff in our brain that sometimes we need to just pull back and think what it is we're doing, what it is we're listening to, and how can we put a little bit of seed of whatever that is, love or empathy to other people, not just based because I'm a Latino, I'm a black or white. We are connected. We was created to connect as human beings. So don't look at the color, don't look at the culture. If you can help and you can connect and do something for your community, go ahead and do that. Okay? You guys have a lovely day, beautiful day. Enjoy your family. Remember, this is we all in the train and experiencing the same thing. So love each other and be grateful. Okay? God bless. Thank you, Pastor Dennis.
God bless.
Yes.
Have a great week. Great week. See you next month.
Yes.
And by the way, I am going to put a link to some resources to help you research stuff in the chat, so that anybody who wants to find places to find out facts or get to the base of the truth. There's all kinds of great sites that do that. And the thing you want to watch for when you're looking at a site like that is make sure that they're being evaluated by other people.
Yes.
Because all of these sites have made themselves available to other sites to be evaluated on their integrity. There are lots of sites out there that claim to be integrous, but when you
have to have accountability with each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what these sites offer.
Okay.
So,
Thank
anyway,
you,
God
Pastor.
bless. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Dennis.
Bye.
Bye.
Por el regalo del Día de las Madres, Betty. ¿A dónde vas tan temprano?
Voy por mi vacuna, mam. Tengo una cita a las 8 y Julio me llevará en su auto. ¿Se te ofrece algo?
¿Algo de la clínica? Allá es tu cita, ¿no es así?
Las vacunas contra el COVID-19 están más cercas ahora, mam. Solo voy al supermercado. Ahí ya las aplican.
Entonces, ¿ya no tienes que esperar tanto? Qué bien, mija. Tráeme unas tortillas, por favor.
Tú puedes ya recibir tu vacuna contra COVID-19 en varios y muy convenientes lugares.
Love you, mom.
Solo visita www.vaccinelocator.doh.wa.gov o llama al 1-800-525-0127. Es simple, gratis y no necesitas ID. Este mensaje ha sido traído a usted por parte del Departamento de Salud del Estado de Washington.